The 8th beatitude ends where the first began. Matthew 5, verse 3. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Matthew 5, verse 10. Blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Same promise, same bracket. The Beatitudes are not a random list. They are a shaped structure with a deliberate beginning and a deliberate end. And then something unusual happens. In verses 11 and 12, Jesus stops speaking about them and starts speaking about you. Blessed are you when others revile you and persecute you and utter all kinds of evil against you falsely on my account. The crowd is still there, but Jesus is no longer describing a category of people in the third person. He turns. He addresses his disciples directly, and he tells them to expect exactly this. The shift from third person to second person is one of the most studied grammatical moves in the entire Sermon on the Mount. For 7 Beatitudes, Jesus describes, blessed are those, blessed are those. In the 8th, he turns. The reason for the shift becomes clear when Jesus adds the phrase, for so they persecuted the prophets who were before you. The disciples are not entering an unprecedented situation. They are stepping into a line. Isaiah, Jeremiah, Amos, Micah, the prophets who spoke the word of God to people who did not want to hear it, were rejected, marginalized, and killed. Jesus is telling his followers, you are their heirs. What happened to them will happen to you, and you are in very good company. This connection to the prophets is not incidental. It is the core of the Beatitudes' comfort. Persecution is not a sign that something has gone wrong with your discipleship. In the economy of the Sermon on the Mount, it is a sign that something has gone right. The Greek verb is Dediōgmenoi, a perfect passive participle. Perfect tense in Greek describes a completed action whose effects are still present. These are not merely people who once faced persecution. They are people who have been persecuted and still carry the mark. The cost has already been paid and is still being paid. The reason given, heniken dikaiosines, on account of righteousness, connects this beatitude directly to the 4th. The same dikaiosine that the hungry and thirsty beatitude names as the object of longing is now named as the cause of opposition. You can want righteousness privately without cost. When you pursue it publicly in a world arranged around different values, the friction becomes visible. And then Jesus issues a command that stops the reader cold. Chairete kai agalliasthe. Rejoice and be glad, not endure, not persevere grimly. The word agalliasthe describes exuberant demonstrative joy, the kind used at wedding celebrations, at festival gatherings. Jesus is not asking for stoic acceptance. He is asking for joy, and he grounds it not in the suffering itself, but in what the suffering reveals. You are in the company of the prophets. The early church read this beatitude as a live description of their own present reality. Within a generation of the Sermon on the Mount, followers of Jesus were being expelled from synagogues, excluded from social life, imprisoned, and killed. Tertullian, writing at the end of the 2nd century, observed, "The blood of the martyrs is the seed of the church." What the world intended as elimination became multiplication. Augustine, writing after Christianity had achieved legal status under Rome, worried about the opposite problem. He saw Christians becoming comfortable, no longer at cost, no longer producing friction. In his commentary on the Beatitudes, he notes that the danger for an established church is the loss of the friction that kept identity clear. The persecuted church knew exactly what it believed. The comfortable church must work harder to remember. The eighth beatitude is therefore not only a comfort to those suffering, it is a diagnostic question. What would a community need to stop saying in order to stop producing friction? Whatever that is what it has been called, to keep saying. Most believers reading this will not face what the early martyrs faced. But the beatitude does not name only dramatic persecution. It names reviling, slander, the social cost of being the person in the room who says the inconvenient thing. These are available in ordinary life. The one who names an injustice the group has agreed to ignore. The one whose allegiances, when made visible, produce friction. The one who will not go along. What is remarkable about the arc of the Beatitudes as a whole is that this is where they end, not with triumph, not with vindication, with the person who has taken the whole shape, poverty of spirit, mourning, meekness, hunger, mercy, purity, peacemaking, and carried it into a world that pushes back. The 8 Beatitudes are not 8 separate virtues. They are a portrait of one life, a life given its proper direction. And Jesus says, at the end of the portrait, this person is blessed, right now in the midst of the cost, before the vindication arrives. Theirs is the kingdom of heaven, the same kingdom promised to the poor in spirit at the very beginning. The promise has not changed. The portrait is complete.